Boy, I feel getting home is half the battle. You know I'm going to feel better any time now, don't you?
Well, I'm counting on it. You know, it's going to take more than a nice, comfy bed and a beautiful view.
Yeah, like
You're
what?
going to, need to have mashed potatoes and milkshake.
Oh,
more than
that sounds like heaven.
Gotta have your treatment.
Yeah, I knew that. I'm going to take my medication.
That's not what I meant.
You and I are not going to argue about this. I've done the research. I've weighed the odds. I've chosen my protocol. And this is it. This formula is going to work. This is the last hope I've got.
Honey, it's experimental. It's completely untested. We don't know what it's going to do to you. I mean, the risk is too great.
Yeah, but it's a risk not to take it. Look, I and I alone will be responsible for what happens to me. And even if this formula doesn't work, maybe the research will help down the line, you know? That's why it's important. And you have to help me convince Rick. Convince Rick that this is it. This is the last hope I've got.
How can I convince Rick when I'm not convinced myself it's the last hope you've got?
What the hell's going on here?
I brought Eve home.
She's my patient, Dad, and she belongs in a hospital.
I love Eve. Do you really think I'm going to do something that's going to hurt her?
Taking an untested substance that could kill her.
Just because Ed hasn't made a decision about this formula
Eve, we
doesn't
have a
mean that
specific regimen that we're following.
I know, but it isn't working with what I've
A bone marrow
got,
transplant's probably the only chance you got.
There isn't time for that. I'm sorry, but I've done more research on this than either one of you. I know more about it. I'm going to continue to take this drug, and there's nothing you can do about it.
I mean, you can't just decide to do
I can
something
decide
like this.
because it's my life. Rick, I just left the hospital so that you wouldn't be legally responsible for me anymore.
I should never agree to take this case.
This formula's going to work. Already I've gotten improved results from my blood workups. You just have to give me a chance to prove it.
I would be acting irresponsibly.
No, you wouldn't. Look at the research. It's good. Read more of my papers here. If you have to, call Dr. Peters. All of his research keeps turning up the same data as mine. It's got to mean something.
You really think he's a good researcher?
I think he's incredible. I think he's brilliant. From everything I've read on this computer, his credentials are amazing.
Such as?
A residency at Sloan Kettering, research for CDC, a huge grant from Hopkins to study this particular type of chemical warfare-induced leukemia. What more of a collaborator could I ask for? He and I keep coming up with the same thing time and time again, and it's this formula. Every instinct in my body says that this is going to work. Everything tells me that this is it. This is my last chance.
What does Rick think about all this?
I think the whole thing must be excruciating for him. I mean, he probably feels like he's been blindsided. You urge him to take me on, and then I go on this rampage of taking untested drugs. And I guess he's had some problems with years before, so the whole thing is... I mean, I don't blame him for blowing up like that. I don't want to jeopardize anybody's job. I think the best thing for me to do would be to dismiss him. And then he's no longer legally responsible for me. It's the right thing to do.
What about your protection? I mean, I know that you have gotten some remarkable results with this formula of yours, but it is untested. You haven't tested it on another human being. You haven't even tested it on an animal. This course that you have taken, it's not only illegal, it's dangerous.
Makes sense to me, though. Don't you see that?
What do you want from me? What am I supposed to do now? Am I supposed to, like, lean on someone in D.C.? Am I supposed to get tough with the FDA to see if they can hasten up some kind of...
Yeah. Well, by the time that happens, I'll be sitting up in a cloud watching everything. There isn't any time left, Ed. We're kidding ourselves if we say that there are any more options or there are any more chances. There aren't any. Please let me make this decision.
I'll talk to you later. Get some rest.
I'm not changing my mind about this.